the thunder was on, and the breeze was on. And this thing, as you can see, this thing has flown over. And this is a corrugated irons, and it's aluminium. Thank God there was nobody here, other than, with the prayers that we made, things would have been okay. If there is anybody here, it would have been very dangerous.
The rain was very heavy this morning, and it started since last night. I think that's why it is happening. And then the wind, a couple of people with wind also. So it was very heavy. We advise NAWEC that when such a thing is going on, like if there's rain heavily, I think they should try to put off everything off until at the end of the rains. It's safer.
With some materials sheltering on trees, authorities have advised inhabitants to stay indoor with their families during the rains and seek support where necessary. Babakar Kamara, GRTS.
Well, you can monitor GRTS radio live on our website, which is at www.grts.gm. We're going to take a very short break now. Stay with us.
It's traditional that your national GSM provider, Gamcell, takes many of its valuable customers to Mecca each year. This year again, Gamcell will offer 10 more of its valuable customers a complete Hajj package in a draw to be held live on GRTS television. Yes, your Hajj is possible by simply loading $50 in scratch card or Nopal. You can win not only a return ticket to Mecca, but also $1,000 travel allowance, food and accommodation in Medina and Mecca. Remember, the more you load $50 in scratch card or Nopal, the more you increase your winning chance. With Gamcell, your Hajj is now easier. Gamcell, Yai Baron.
And to news elsewhere, President Obama's health care plan, otherwise called Medicaid, is for Americans with low income. However, this plan is proven problematic as many doctors don't accept Medicaid patients. We have more in this report.
The workday begins early at the Maryland office of Dr. George Bone.
So that tingling in your hands and the buzzing in your ear. So how long have you had that?
Dr. Bone is the only physician in an office serving about 6,000 patients, but only about 60 of them are covered by Medicaid, the government health insurance program for low-income families. The reason is economics.
Primary care is a mix of compassion and economics. We have to pay rent, we have to pay electricity, we have to pay the staff, and I have to take something home to my family. It's basically trying to run a business, and if the economics are not right, the economics are not right.
While the amount Medicaid pays doctors varies by state, it's often much lower than what doctors get from Medicare or private insurers. Those lower payments can translate into less access. According to a new study, 96% of doctors accepted new patients last year, but nearly a third were unwilling to accept new Medicaid patients, while less than 20% turned away patients with Medicare or private insurance. Acceptance rates for new Medicaid patients were higher in states where payments were higher. The new health care law will raise Medicaid payments to primary care doctors, making them equal to Medicare payments in 2013 and 2014.
So what we're really going to see, we hope, with this higher payment rate is that doctors will be more willing to take these people with new Medicaid coverage and see them in their offices, provide them primary care services, try to keep them healthy, rather than expect those people to end up in an emergency room to get care.
But what happens after 2014?
We'll see whether states are going to continue, or whether the federal government, Congress could step in and decide that was a good idea. We're going to put some more federal money up to ensure that it continues to happen for more years.
As for Dr. Bone, he plans to take new Medicaid patients next year, but just how many, it's impossible to say. Athena Jones, CNN, Upper Marlboro, Maryland.
In South Africa, tensions are running high in the aftermath of Thursday's killing of 34 platinum miners by police. An official of the mining company said it all started with what he called an illegal strike.
Through the channels that we have in place, we have recognition agreements in place with our unions in terms of the law. In terms of the recognition agreements, we engaged with our unions with regard to the issues as they were raised. What happened was that an illegal strike took place. Employees chose not to come to work, and then that very quickly escalated into an issue of public violence, which was beyond our control and one that needed the intervention of the South African Police Services.
CNN's Kepil Mabuzem is following the story from Rustenburg, and she earlier spoke to Natalie Allen at the CNN Center. And as we found out in this report, there is shock and disbelief among victims and ordinary South Africans who are comparing the tragedy to apartheid-era police brutality.
The bullet went through here and came out on the other side.
He still can't believe he made it out alive. Swimming's cruiser was on the receiving end Thursday when police opened fire during a workers' protest over wages at a South African mine. 34 people died. Scusa says he was terrified.
I raised my hands to surrender, thinking they'd leave us alone. But then I was hit by a rubber bullet right here. And then they ordered us to lie on the ground. People were falling all around me. Another bullet grazed my head. I didn't think I would come out alive. That's why I raised my hands. I thought we'd all perish there. We were surrounded by the police.
Police insist they acted in self-defense against an armed and dangerous mob. According to police, 6 guns were recovered from some of the dead miners. Scusa was carrying a club he says he never intended to kill.
In my culture, men carry clubs, not to hurt others. It's tradition.
He met his wife Nabantu the day after the clashes, desperately searching for him. She told me her husband supports not only her and their 2 children, but 5 siblings back home in the Eastern Cape. We accompanied her to various hospitals until she found him. They are now together and grateful in a community shattered by grief. Scusa says being a web drill operator is hard work, and the $500 a month he gets as pay is inadequate.
I can't even afford to take my 9-year-old to school. I get paid today, and I'm forced to borrow money the next day.
Their desperation and disillusionment makes them vulnerable. Expired ANC youth leader Julius Malema arrived in a car fit for a mine owner to express his solidarity with the workers. Malema was once a supporter of President Jacob Zuma. The two had a falling out. Malema now accuses Zuma of failing the country's poor.
President Zuma presided over the massacre of our people. President Zuma's government has murdered our people.
I tried to ask Malema about his motives for being there, but was forcibly stopped by one of his bodyguards. A surprisingly aggressive reaction at a time when South Africa is wrestling with the role of violence in its internal discourse.
Well, we now go with another break. We'll be right back.
الذي كسب الذنوب وصدته جزى الله أصحاب النبي محمد جميعا كما كانوا له خير صاحبي وآل رسول الله